So I'm here briefly to introduce the next speaker, Larry Gabbard, the founding principal of the new Stephen T. Mather Building Arts and Craftsmanship High School in Lower Manhattan. The mission of the school, which opened last month with about 100 ninth graders, is to educate students about the building trades and in a subject that's very close to me personally and institutionally, landmark preservation. Named for the first director of the National Park Service, Mather provides rigorous training in carpentry, masonry, decorative finishes, and landscape management, in addition to the standard Regents curriculum. When students graduate from Mather, they're going to be ready for college and a career, and that career will be in fields that, again, are near and dear to the Landmarks Commission and people who believe in preservation, and many of the people in this room, of course. The demand and need for highly skilled craftspeople and preservationists, both in a technical sense and the intellectual sense, the philosophical sense, have never been greater in New York City. There are more than now 31,400 landmark buildings in all 5 boroughs, and 8,000 or so having been designated in the past 11 years, and I know something about those 11 years, mostly as part of 43 new historic district extensions over that period of time, 80% of which are outside Manhattan, by design, not by accident. And the Landmarks Commission also issues more than 12,000 permits. We're now up to 12,000 permits a year for changes to these historic buildings, historically important buildings. And that's where Mather comes in again. The timing of Mather's opening could not be better. So the students at Mather will be making the changes of tomorrow for historic properties. So I'm certain that as the city's inventory of landmarks continues to grow, so will the opportunity for Mather students when they graduate. That's jobs. To hear more about the school and this generation of preservationists, which is very exciting and should be very exciting to everyone, please welcome Larry Gabbard. Larry?
Good afternoon. I see 2 green buttons, so we'll just hope that the screen advances. So those of us here at the summit can agree that certainly New York City is one of the most robust cities, certainly a great city. And we can also agree that it is not only in need of innovators to drive a discussion around building a competitive city that is socially, economically, and environmentally resilient, but it is also in need of leaders and citizens who can do the work. So I ask you, why look anywhere other than our own New York public city high schools, where culturally diverse future leaders, actual young residents of New York City, are waiting to be trained and are ready to take an opportunity to work in and give back to the city? The Stephen T. Mather Building Arts and Craftsmanship High School opened on September 9th of this year with its first freshman class of 87 students, a third of them female, and a very passionate, innovative public school teachers and preservation trade professionals. Mather High School is a new career and technical education high school, or CTE, in Lower Manhattan, founded by the New York City Department of Education in partnership with the National Park Service, certainly a recognized leader in preserving and sustaining the nation's cultural and natural heritage. CTE is a model that prepares students for the world of work through skills training, job shadows and internships, and mentoring by professionals in the field. Now, unlike the vocational education programs of the past that you might be familiar with, those programs where students were tracked into one trade and were sort of kept out of academic rigorous programs, this 21st century CTE model provides students a college preparatory academic curriculum aligned with state and national standards while teaching trades and prepping them for the world of work, so truly preparing them for college and career. Our mission at Mather High School is to provide students hands-on instruction, certainly in the preservation trades, but in all of their classes. Students begin with learning the foundational skills of the building arts, masonry, decorative finishing, carpentry, and landscape management. And then for their first 2 years, they will select a concentration and advance it through additional instruction, internships, and field experiences, some with the National Park Service, others with other industry leaders here in New York City. Trade classes begin with instruction in historic hand tools and materials presented in the context of the history and evolution of each of the trades. Power tools and modern building materials used in preservation, what someone can expect to encounter on a modern job site, are introduced as the students progress through the program. The trade curriculum was developed in consultation with committees of practitioners from each of the trades, and while it continues to evolve, the foundation has been laid for a well-rounded experience in the building arts. At Mather, carpentry, masonry, landscape management, and decorative finishing are all presented within the larger framework of historic preservation. Explorations of what preservation is, why it's important, how it impacts the city, and how that city changes over time. The study of the larger context of the trades is one of the things that distinguishes Mather High School from other technical trade education programs. This preservation-themed approach is supported by a core curriculum that is designed to integrate with the trade instruction. So, for example, wood structure and tree species are studied in botany, while at the same time they are receiving an introduction to wood joinery using saws and chisels, planes in their carpentry class. So that they can make simple wood structures or wood frames, for instance. Or take the example where the students learn to mix and work with mortar and plaster in their masonry class, while the reactions of lime burning, slaking, mixing, and curing are all taught in their chemistry class. History is taught with the reference to evolving human needs, building technology, material production, labor movements, the changing built environment. Then students take a walking tour in one of their CTE classes to discuss the city and the buildings around them, those that perhaps remain from an era that they're studying in their US history class. Essays are written in English to explore identity as experienced in their neighborhoods, while a visit to Edgar Allan Poe's house in the Bronx coincides with the study of his short stories. Now, I might be slightly biased as the founding principal, but I do think Mather High School is an innovative idea. However, it's not mine. Mather was conceived by the National Park Service as a way to engage with youth while leveraging the organization's demonstrated commitment to preservation, bringing a whole new generation of trained practitioners to the trades. It also happens to be named after the first director of the National Park Service, Stephen T. Mather. The field of preservation requires specialized skill sets and an understanding of traditional trades, both of which have been shrinking as the current workforce ages, and even while the need to care for aging structures and landscapes increases. Up until this point, the development and expansion of educational opportunities in the preservation field has been found almost exclusively in post-secondary, graduate, and professional continuing education, and has concentrated in architectural design, planning, and conservation. On one hand, because of this, the preservation field as a whole has flourished. On the other hand, except for a few stellar examples of hands-on preservation skills training has lagged. Of course, there are the unions and other apprenticeship-based pathways of trade instructions, and while these are very useful to present-day construction, there is an ever less of an overlap between the materials and skills utilized in new construction versus that are used in preservation. As New York's and the country's commitment to the preservations of structures, communities, streetscapes, and landscapes increases, it is critical that we preserve the very trades that are used in them to make it possible. Hoping to help meet the needs of the preservation field, Mather High School offers relevant hands-on experiences that impart practical career skills, incorporating critical thinking and problem solving that are crucial to success in college and career. And by the way, the CTE model does work. According to the US Department of Education, while the average national high school graduation rate hovers somewhere around 75%, for students who concentrated in CTE programs, the average jumps to over 90%. More broadly, trade instruction with an emphasis on the quality, detail, care, and practice that is associated with craftsmanship, which is an important part of our name, is an educational model that will serve students well throughout their lives. Learning a trade requires humility, constant self-evaluation, making and correcting mistakes, striving for improvement, skills that quite simply make students, let alone better workers in the workforce. Finally, it is hoped that Mather and its integrated academic and trade curricula will form a model that can be replicated by school systems in other cities as the new CTE model becomes more widely adopted and the need for preservation skills and the understanding that continues to grow as our cities age and expand. In the end, schooling, of course, though, is about the students. While there are obvious benefits for New York City and its historic preservation efforts, especially as a force to improve livability, sustainability, and diversity of the cityscape, the benefits to the students are actually why we do it. They receive a hands-on education that they can engage with, more doors open for them to a variety of options for the future, both in terms of secondary education, but also employment opportunities. They get to interact with the city and the world around them, and they become the future stewards of their communities, their public spaces, their parks, their city, and ultimately their own cultural heritage. So, as we train students in skills related to preserving the past, we believe that we are securing their future, and at the same time addressing the future needs of New York City. Thank you.